today we are going to be preparing for the test on Friday. And it's going to be kind of weird because there are going to be some questions today that for some of you guys, my advice will be to guess C. But for some of you guys that can do some of the harder questions, we're actually going to work out the questions. And so I know that's going to be weird that I'm going to have some questions today where I'm going to be like, okay, half of you guys I would guess C, and half of you guys I would work this out. But that's just the way it is. Some people know how to do some of the tougher questions and some of us don't. But what I really hope you see is that there's a lot of easy questions today. All right. If you understand a lot of the stuff that we've been doing, then I think that there should be a lot of easy questions today. And that's our goal, is that if it's not easy, that hopefully by today and tomorrow, we're making some of this stuff easy. All right. So today we're starting off with, whenever you look at a question, we've got to know what the question's asking for. And so there's always these key words or key things that kind of give away what it is that we're supposed to do. So when we take a look at this first question, the word domain stands out. Now, I guess some kids that I always say, is there an important word? I don't know why, but kids always want to say function. Function is actually rarely an important word to us, okay? So the only time the word function really means anything is if it's asking, is it a function? But other than that, the word function doesn't mean anything. But domain does mean something to us, okay? So domain means our X. And so we want to make sure, hold on a second. I think I had somebody trying to come on. So domain is definitely a word that means something to us, okay? So domain means X's. So the first thing we're going to do is come down here and look at our multiple choice. Good test takers are always looking at their answers, okay? Allow those answers to kind of help you. We got a lot of people, so I'm going to mute everybody. But if you need to talk, you can always unmute yourself. When we look at this and we see that we've got two answers that have Y's here, we can mark them off. And now we're looking just at what's left, and we see that we've got, both of these say -4 and 2's, but this has an equal to bar and this doesn't. So we want to remember that domain, we are cropping the x-axis. So we got to draw these cropping lines, and they have to cross the x-axis. So right here, I just cropped the x-axis at -4. And so we got to ask ourselves, this is an open circle. Does it get an equal to bar? And this does not get an equal to bar. Open circles do not get equal to bars. So we want the answer where -4 does not have an equal to bar. So the answer would be C. Now, we've actually seen this question before, so hopefully that one looks kind of familiar. This number 2 we've never seen before. So number 2, our keyword is range. So remember, this is a part of what you have to do. You have to actively look for keywords. Y'all know I hate to read, so I kind of scan looking for keywords. So the keyword here is range, which is the Y's. So now we're going to crop the Y-axis. So that means we have to draw lines that cross the Y-axis, okay? Now, I go to crop the bottom, and I hit an arrow. Are we allowed to crop that? Nope, okay? And I forgot to do one little thing. I didn't really take a look at my answers. All my answers are Y's, and so I don't get to eliminate anything, but this does tell me I have to cross the Y-axis. So that's what's nice, is that if you weren't sure what range meant, the answers here, since they're all Y's, are telling you. So the answers are always telling us something. They're either going to let us eliminate something or they're telling us something. So good test takers are always looking at their answers. All right, so we couldn't crop the bottom because there's an arrow, but I can crop the top. So when you're drawing this line, if you don't cross the Y-axis, you know you did something wrong. So we can see that we crossed at 8. No, you're good. You can go get it. Or it's going to get unplugged. That's fine. You just hop back on whenever you can. All right. So we see that this crosses at 8. So it definitely can't be A, and it definitely can't be C. All right. So what's the difference between B and D? Once again, it's this equal to bar. And so we got to know that the equal to bar only comes when it's filled in. If it's an open circle, no equal to bar. And I'm touching an open circle right here. So no equal to bar. So that would be D, no equal to bar. So this is a lot different, more different when you are just finding domain, just finding range, and you're using your multiple choice answers, okay? And so we want to make sure that you see kind of how we're taking the test. Now, I know today all y'all are doing is mostly writing down, you know, A, B, and C. So I hope that you don't just zone out and write down A, B, C. This is all about test taking skills. There's a lot of easy questions today. So this is a question we've actually seen quite a few times, which is fine. It's just hard to find questions like these. So first off, we see that this is asking for a domain. And then when you look at this, we see 4 dots. Now, one of the things I want you to kind of see with this is if there's 4 dots, and there's no lines in this, there's just dots, there's going to be 4 answers. So 4 dots means 4 answers. So right away, I can mark off D, mainly because it's domain, and that says Y. But I can also mark off C, because if there's 4 dots and no lines connecting these dots, then there should be 4 answers. And this only has what looks to be 2 answers. Okay, so it's got to be one of the ones with 4 answers. So with this, domain means x's. And you're going to go from each dot to the x-axis, almost like we were cropping it, but we're not really cropping it. We're just going to see what my 4 x's are. So we got -1 here. And so when we look at -1, both of these have a -1. So then we're going to the next dot and the next x, which is 1. So both of these have a +1. So right now it's not helping me too much. Okay, then we go to the next dot and we touch 2 on the x-axis. And the only one that has 2 on the x-axis would be B. So you're going from each dot to the x-axis and checking your answers as you go and eliminating any time that it doesn't have one of the numbers. The key to that is domain. Knowing domain is going to the x-axis. Okay?
They do try to trick you there with that -5, because the very first point is at -5, is it not?
Exactly. So the very first point is right next to -5.
Yeah.
And so if you're not physically going to that x-axis, it's very easy to look and say, oh, hey, -5. And so that's exactly it. These multiple choice tests, and this is what I want you to see. If you've ever taken a test and thought you did well, and then it turns out you did bad, you fell for these tricks. So that's what we're trying to show you is all these test taking strategies and stuff. And you need to make sure you're going to that x-axis. Don't just look at it and pick the closest number. So very good point there, that we want to make sure that you're going to that proper axis. Now, I know you don't get to draw on your paper the way I do, but you know, if you're taking your finger, make sure you go to the x-axis. Okay, so that's the big thing right there. Don't allow yourself to get tricked by just looking at what number is close to it. Okay, so this one right here, our keyword is range. And so range means we're cropping this to the y-axis. So you can clearly tell this is going to hit 90 right there. And then once again, it's really easy to look at this dot and see that it's close to 6. Okay, well, that's not what we want to do. We want to crop this and make sure that we're going for range to the y-axis. So I've got to go to the y-axis And that's that 0 right there. So if you make sure you go to the y-axis, you're going to be fine. If you just kind of look at this, then you're going to allow yourself. Now, that being said, you should still never choose 6 because it's on the x-axis. And so that just doesn't make any sense to choose 6. So we know it's got to be coming from the y-axis here. So hopefully you definitely see 90. But then we also have this 0 because we could crop the bottom. So we need 2 numbers. And I want you to kind of think of this here, 2 dots. We should have 2 numbers, all right? When there were 4 dots, we had 4 numbers. Now, I hate to say it's always going to be perfect, but let me even take a step back here for a second because I haven't really been bringing this up like I normally do. How many dots did we see right here? 1 dot, didn't we? And there was a 1 number answer. So typically the number of dots is going to be a dead indication of, oh, that's perfect, of, you know, how many numbers there should be in your answer. So we had 2 dots. I should have 2 numbers. So it should be 0 and 90. The only one that has 2 numbers and there's 0 and 90 would be H. So this has 90, but it doesn't have 0. We had to have 2 numbers.
Are we worried about open and closed? Like if both of those were open, we wouldn't be able to use 90 or 6, correct? Or will they not do that?
I don't, yeah, I hate to say they won't do it, but I don't think it's going to be a big part on this test.
Okay.
I think on future tests, they might try to use the equal to and stuff like that to kind of get.
And just say like, yeah, every real number less than 90 and greater than 6 or whatever. Like,
yes. So I honestly, I don't think I should have had this one on this test, but it still works. And that's what I like about it. But this is more reasonable domain and range.
I got you.
All right. So,
oops, somebody wants in.
Yep, I think I let him in. It was Fabian. All right, number 5. So we are looking for keywords that are telling us what it is that we're doing here.
I gotta get out for just a second. I'll be right back.
You're good. The key word here is vertex. So if you remember, vertex was with x-intercept and y-intercept. And so vertex is the point that if it's a curved graph, so it's a U graph or an upside down U graph, that it is the very top or the very bottom. So in this case, it is the very top. And then I taught you a little trick, okay? Maybe I shouldn't call it a trick, but it's a test-taking strategy. That when you look at your answers and you see they want the X and the Y, we don't look at the X and the Y, okay? Because if you look at the X and the Y, it can trick you. So we are going to look just at the X. If you will look just at the X and then come over here, the X has to be first. And so, oh, right there is the only one that has a positive 2. So the answer is going to be D. If you look at both the X and the Y, so I get these kids all the time, oh, Coach Settles, I don't need to worry about that. I know what I'm doing. And so they'll look at 2 and -3. The fact that the last number that went through your head was -3, you come down here, you're like, oh, look, a -3 and a +2, and then you get tricked, okay? And so we want to make sure that if they're ever talking about X and Y, just focus in on the X first so that you don't get tricked, because that's very, very common. And kids that know what they're doing get tricked, and then it looks like you don't know anything about vertex. That's kind of the bad thing about multiple choice tests. All right, number 6. So do we have a keyword here? All right, keyword is domain. So when we take a look at this, we're going to crop the x-axis because domain is x's. So I go to crop this on the x-axis and I can't because I run into an arrow. All right, well, let's come over here. Oh, I can't because I run into an arrow. So this is what we call all real numbers. Now, I really need you to see this today because for whatever reason, my boss decided to write all real numbers like this right here. And I don't know why, because it's never written on the STAR test this way. But this right here, this sideways 8 is the infinity symbol. And so this right here, when it's written like this, just simply means that it goes on forever in both directions because it's got the infinity symbol. And so that means all real numbers. So on the test, if the answer is all real numbers and you see this instead of the words all real numbers, just understand that this is your answer right here. Okay? It means all real numbers. So the answer should be B. All right. So we started off with a whole bunch of domain and range. So I'm hoping that you guys are pretty good with domain and range. We've been doing that a lot. All right, number 7, we got a keyword here, vertex. But then we also have a y equals equation. So anytime we have a y equals equation, we're going to go plug that y equals equation into the Desmos. And then the fact that it's asking for vertex, we'll look for the vertex. So y equals 3x squared plus 6x. So yesterday, we really tried to make sure that everybody knew the Desmos calculator. So you need to make sure if you don't know the Desmos, I think we'll have a little bit of time after class. And if you got questions, you can ask us because we got to make sure we know this. So y equals 3x. To get the squared, we want to come down here and click on the keypad, and it's that a squared right there. And then I forgot the rest, plus 6x. So plus 6x. Okay. So I don't know if y'all remember this or not, but this calculator knows when it's touching an important point. And so it gives us these dots here. So these are x-intercepts, y-intercepts, and of course the vertex would also be an important point. If you accidentally hit enter, so watch this real quick. I'm going to hit enter. And when I hit enter, the dots all went away. So if I want those dots to come back, I just simply need to put my cursor back inside and all the dots appear again. So the vertex is going to be that highest or lowest point, and this right here is the lowest point. And if you just put your mouse over this or touch it, you can really see the answer right there. And so it's going to be -1, -3. I want to focus in on just the x, right? Anytime they give you x and y, focus just in on that x so that you don't get tricked. I'm looking for an x of -1. So x is -1 would be C. And of course, right above it, they tried to trick you. And so be very, very careful when you're looking at x and y. Look x first. Now, if there's two answers that have -1, then we can look at the y. Okay, but really focus in on that x. Okay, number 8. So we have taught you guys that anytime y is not by itself, that we want to get y by itself, okay? However, we're still kind of new at this. I didn't really think that we were going to be doing get y by itself until the unit 3, okay? So I thought we still had a little bit of time to get better at this. Because of this, I want to show you a little trick. So if you're good at getting y by itself, you can get y by itself, and then you can plug this into the Desmos. But I want to show you a little trick that actually makes this a lot easier. I debated whether or not I wanted to show this to you, but I think we're going to show it to you. So when y is not by itself, and they're looking for the x-intercept and the y-intercept, there's a little trick you can do. It's called the cover-up method. And so if I want to look for the x-intercept, I'm going to cover up the y and the number with the y. Okay, so it's called the cover-up method. If you need to, you use your finger and you put it up on the screen and just kind of cover it up. Okay, so I'm covering up the y. And then I'm just going to quickly solve for x. So I'm going to divide by 8 to both sides. And so if I do 96 divided by 8, so let's go to our calculator real quick. And I'm going to reload this. And if I just quickly do 96 divided by, so remember divided by will be right here, divided by 8, I get 12 right there. And take a look. Do I have an x-intercept that's 12? B. Okay, a nice little easy trick to get that answer. Now, does it work the other way? Could I do the cover up method for the y? So if I cover up the x and divide by -6, 96 divided by -6 would be -16. And so it's called the cover up method, and we'll practice it again tomorrow just so that y'all can see it. So you got two ways that you could do this. You could get y by itself, but a lot of us still struggle getting y by itself. Or you can use this cover up method. And it's only when you're looking for the x-intercept and y-intercept. So if we're trying to get something different, then it's not going to work, okay? But for the x-intercept and y-intercept, you can just cover up one of the letters. So once again, I could cover up the y's, divide by 8, and that's going to be my x-intercept. Or cover up the x, divide by the -6, that'll be my y-intercept. Okay, so like I said, I'll show that to y'all again tomorrow. And in the end, if you don't understand either of these, we're guessing C. Okay, don't let this be something that you're going to sit and panic about. I still didn't, to me, we weren't really supposed to see this kind of a question until Unit 3. And we're going to get a lot of practice in Unit 3. So on getting y by itself. Okay, so take a look at question 9. Okay, so first off, a part of me right here needs you to be honest with yourself, okay? First off, there's no multiple choice here, so this is going to be one of those questions where they give you the boxes, like this right here, and then it'll have a plus/minus. And so our answers are going to go in these boxes on the test. So if you look at this right here and you do not remember that right there is a stupid nickname and what that stupid nickname means, this is like the Mr. Tickles nickname, okay? It's stupid. If you don't remember what that means, then this right now looks like Chinese to you. And if it looks like Chinese to you, we have a guessing strategy that says anytime that it's not multiple choice, you will guess a number between 1 and 20. And remember that you put those numbers starting on the second box, okay, unless you're going to put a negative, all right? So I need you to be honest. And if you are like, yeah, I don't know this, then I need you to guess your number on your paper, okay? However, some of y'all remember that anytime that we have this stupid nickname, all we care about is the number at the end. And this right here says times 1/2. So times is geometric. We learned this yesterday. Times is geometric. Then they give me a 1. So I'm going to use the geometric formula. So I will have a poster on your test that will remind you of the geometric formula, but it looks like this: a sub n is equal to, and then a1 always goes first, so 24, and then the r, which is what is right here. So remember, this times 1/2 is your r, and then we put an exponent of n minus 1. So we make this formula right here. We're going to go plug this in the Desmos. Now, like I said, those of you that know you don't know this, then you're guessing your number. My number would be 5. So if I was guessing on this, then I would put 5. All day today, I have not had anybody in class who has said that they knew how to do this right here. So all day today, I've guessed 5 on this question. Okay, this is the first time I've worked this out all day because I know I got kids on right now that know how to do this. And so we're going to go plug this into our Desmos.
I'm going 8.
Do what?
I'm guessing 8.
You're guessing 8? Yeah, I don't know why I'm always a 5.
I'm guessing 8, and I know how to do this, but I haven't done it in my head, though, so I didn't cheat.
So we're going to guess y equals, guess. Did I just say we're going to guess? We're not guessing. We're typing in. So we're going to type in y equals 24, parentheses. Now, remember, to get a fraction, you hit the divide by in this calculator. So divide 1/2. Technically, this means that when you divide by a number, or when you have a fraction, You're actually dividing. And so, all right, and then to get the n minus 1, you have to hit this AB button to make it an exponent. We have to put this in parentheses here, x minus 1. And then we're going to turn this into a table so that we can type in, it wanted the fourth term, I believe. The fourth term right here, so that right there means we're typing in 4. So 4 would give me an answer of 2.
Oh,
I was closer. Whenever I want the record to show
we
that I
both
was
went
much
over,
closer
though.
guessing 5. Okay.
You can't go over.
They don't know what the Price is Right is, so
It's probably true.
actually that's still a show. I think Drew Carey does it.
Drew Carey did it for a while. I didn't know if it's still new.
All right, so you would put 3 in
Not
the
even-
box. Obviously, y'all don't have to draw the
It's-
boxes. The answer is 3, but you would put that 3 in that second box right there. All right, so let's take a look at 10. So question 10, I see this stupid nickname again. Okay, so anytime we see that stupid nickname, the only thing we care about is this plus 32. So once again, I need you guys to be honest with yourself. If you do not know how to do this, if you're like, I don't have a clue, then you're going to guess C, okay? And you're going to move on with life. You're not going to stress over this question. If you're like, okay, this says plus 32, so plus would be arithmetic. So we're going to do the arithmetic formula. So we're going to go A plus N is equal to A1, which is 16, and then plus 32. And then parentheses, and this n minus 1 is regular size. It's not an exponent. So if you can do this, that's awesome. If you can't do it, then, like I said, you guess C. So I'm hoping that y'all understand that the only thing that this n minus 1 tells us right here is that if it's plus 32, it's giving me the D. If it's times something, then it's giving me the R. Okay, and then that just tells me which formula to use. All right, so I'm quickly going to go plug this in. So reload. So we got y equals 16 plus 32, parentheses, x minus 1. All right, and then we're going to do our table. And I did not even look to see what we're looking for. The 5th. And I hate how this says the 5th second, but on second, they're talking about like times seconds. So the 5th second, so we're going to type in 5 right there. So 5, and the answer is 144. So everybody that guessed C got it right, which is why we guess it. We're not always going to get it right, but if you didn't know what you were doing, then you were like, I'm guessing C and moving on with life. And you give yourself a shot if you always guess C. All right. So those were hard questions. So if you didn't know those, then guessing C is great. Now we're going to get to some easier questions. If you know the key word right here, do you know what a 0 is? If you know what zeros are, then this is really easy. So if you remember, zeros are the same as x-intercept, solution, and 0. So it's talking about where it's crossing the x-axis. So right here is where it crosses the x-axis. So all you got to do is tell me those two numbers right there. So that's -1 and +3. So you look at your answers, the only one that has -1 and +3 would be D. Nothing hard about that at all. We love those questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got to get those right.
They're star questions. So, I mean, you should love these. All right. Number 12. So on this one, there were 2 zeros. On this one, there's only 1 0 because it's only touching one time right there, which is -3. Is it possible to have no zeros? Yes. And really quick, I'm going to show you. So I'm going to go backwards real quick. right here on this question, there would be no zeros. This red line never gets to the x-axis. So-
Just on that real quick.
Yep.
That doesn't mean that you put the numbers 0.
That is correct. It would be none. Or I don't know what else they would put, but don't put 0 because 0 means that it crosses at 0. Very good point. So we want to make sure that you understand that it's always the answers are where it crosses. So don't put 0 unless it crosses at 0. Okay? All right.
That would be terrible to get one wrong like that.
I know, because you actually knew the answer. All right. So hopefully y'all think these are easy questions. I pray that y'all think these are easy questions. Now, it all depends on how well you know the calculator. Okay, so anytime that we see a y equals equation, we're going to go plug it in to the Desmos. Okay, so remember f of x is y. Then once we plug it in, what are we looking for? Well, when they give you an extra number, now hopefully you see the relationship between this 4 and that x right there. But even if you don't, we just kind of have a standing rule here. If they give you an extra number, then type that number in, okay? If you don't know, if you're like, well, I don't know what they're looking for, but I see a 4 here, then we're going to type that 4 in, okay? So we're going to go plug this now. I'm going to write this down so I don't have to go back and forth.
I don't know.
5x minus 2. Whoa. Okay. So we're going to refresh this here. So we got y equals minus 3x, your squared button. So this is where we really got to make sure you know how to use this Desmos. Plus
I think
5x minus 2. And I will tell you that if you have not learned the Desmos and you know you're not going to want to learn the Desmos, try to come back to school, because next week when we come back to school, we'll teach you how to use the Inspire calculator, and then you'll be good at all this. All of a sudden, all this stuff will be easy. All right. So we're going to plug this in. Now, we don't want the graph. We need to plug a number in. So the only time we can plug a number in is to hit settings and turn this into a table. And then we wanted to plug in the number 4. So if we plug in the number 4, we get negative 30 as our answer. Okay, so on this, the negative goes up front, and then the numbers start in that second box there.
it's my number.
That's your number? Oh, that's right. Forgot about that.
I probably wouldn't have put a negative. Yeah, actually, I probably would have, because the negative 3x to start with.
All right. So number 14, same thing. Okay. Same type of question. It's got this y equals, I don't know why they use 4 again, but they use 4 again. So this is y equals 2x squared minus 5x minus 3. And like I said, I hope you love these questions. They're really, really easy. It's all calculator. Just got to know how to use this calculator. So we're going to go y equals, and I want you to notice how I write this down so I don't have to go back and forth. That's what I recommend doing on your test, is write it down on a sheet of paper, and then you can go type this in without going back and forth and accidentally.
Do they have access to draw on it? Like
I don't think so. If they do, I'm just not familiar with it, but that kind of sucks because that would be nice. All right, minus 5x minus 3. Even still, even if you could draw on it, it would only draw on the testing app. When you switch over to Desmos, it wouldn't do what I'm doing here.
Right.
This just happens because I'm on Zoom. All right, so we're going to click on this and click on table, and then they're looking for 4 again. So we click on 4, and the answer is 9. So the answer would be D.
Got that one.
All right, so number 15. So number 15, here's the only time the word function means anything. Is it a function? And I know it says is the relation of function, but just is it a function? That's the only time that function means anything. Okay? So we want to know, is it a function? So remember, you look only at the x's. We don't care about the y's. Don't look at the y's. So is that a function? The negative 4's repeat. Remember, the key number on functions is 1. That means they can only be written down one time. If you have 2 negative 4's, this is not a function. So no, because the negative 4 repeats. It could also say things like,
X's
it has more than one y.
X's can't repeat.
Do what?
I mean, it could just simply say no because X's can't repeat.
That's right. So it could say it a bunch of different ways. The key there is knowing that it's no because there's 2 of those negative 4's. All right. 16. Okay, so 16 is going to bring up something important here. Now, we actually know what the word domain means now. So you know domain means x's, but I want to pretend for a second that you're not sure what to do with this. We see a y equals equation. So what's our rule? When you see y equals equation, we go plug it in. Then, especially if you don't know what this means, they give me 4 numbers right here. So what should I do? I should go plug those 4 numbers in, and they're going to give me 4 answers. Okay? So anytime they give you random numbers, if they give you more than one random number, then plug in those random numbers. Okay? What it's technically saying is they're going to give us 4 x's because domain is x's, and they want 4 y's. But in the end, even if you don't understand that, you should be able to see 2x minus 5. Get this just because you're going to plug it in and start typing in all those random numbers. So y equals 2x minus 5. And we're going to go to where we can type these in. Now, some of these numbers are already here, like -1 and 1. And then what else do they have? So -1 and 1 and 3 and 5. So come down here, 3 and 5. So I'm looking for a -7, a -3, 1, and 5. So a -7, a -3, 1, and 5 would be D. Okay? And as soon as you knew the -3, you knew the answer. The only one that had -3 was D. Okay. We got 2 more questions. All right, so they want to know, is this a function? So we tell if it's a function by the vertical line test. Remember the key number is 1. It's only allowed to touch once. This touches twice. That's not a function. So looking at this one, they're only allowed to have 1 line. So once again, our number is 1. And all the x's, we look only at the x's, don't look at the y's. All these have 1 except for this one. And since this one has 2, this is not a function. Okay, so now we look at C. So we're doing it's a graph, so we're doing the vertical line test. Touches once. Touches once. I don't see anywhere where I could draw a vertical line and it touched twice. C is a function. And then just to look at D, you can see that the x's all repeat, so that's definitely not a function. Okay. All right. And be careful. I don't know that they would ask you like this, but this one's asking which one is not a function. So be careful if they're asking, is it a function or not a function? So I'm looking for the one that's not a function. So right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all of the x's are different. This is a function. On B, 1 line, 1 line, 1 line, 1 line, 1 line. All have 1 line. That is a function. So we're looking for the one that's not a function. If I do the vertical line test, touches once, okay, anywhere I can draw it, it's only going to touch once, so that is a function. And then D, that has two different lines right there. This is not a function because this has two lines.